what is possibly the most exciting new idea in this field. I'd like to come to questions at the end, if I may. In this, I beg your pardon, sir. I'd like to come to questions at the end, if I may. Is that all right? I really need to keep going on this one. I must come back at the end. Now, this point you'll see why at the end. This is a participative thing, but we have to have a plan. So this is possibly the most exciting new idea in the area of giving people power, and it's called the Community Bill of Rights. And to discuss it is Melanie Strickland. Ladies and gentlemen, Melanie Strickland.
Thank you very much. I'm really delighted to have the opportunity to talk about this idea, because I think it's really important and really exciting, and I think that it's something that we as individuals and lawyers, if they want to, can really get on board with, and I think it hits the nail on the head in so many ways. Probably a lot of you have never even heard about the Community Bill of Rights. Basically, there's an organisation in the US called the Community Environmental Legal Defence Fund, and they've been working on the Community Bill of Rights for some years with local communities. So they're a public interest law firm, and what they found in their work over the last 15 years is that communities that wanted to resist a corporate assault, like, for example, fracking or a factory farm or another unwanted development of some sort, had no ability under the current system of law to actually say no. So they didn't have any say in decisions that are taken in their communities that affect them. And the same applies over here. The law actually makes it unlawful for communities to be sustainable. So after many years of plugging away at the legal system, sort of submitting appeals, typically on the basis that a corporate hasn't filled in the correct paperwork, and kept, they might win the case, but then in the longer term the community will lose because a corporation just has to fill in the paperwork appropriately, and the development will go ahead. They realise that they need to fundamentally change the structure of law. That is the only way to get sustainable communities, because the way, the basis of law at the moment is that it's structured to subordinate communities and nature to corporate power. So the traditional style of activism, like petitioning, that sort of thing, is never really doesn't change the status quo. What we need to do to get fundamental change is to actually change the rules of the game, change the structure of law. So the Community Bill of Rights basically is a local law, a local constitution to elevate the rights of communities and nature over corporate rights. And I'm going to say a little bit more about that a bit later on, but first I want to talk briefly about what the Community Bill of Rights isn't. It isn't the Localism Act. I mention this because, when I'm talking about the Community Bill of Rights, lots of people say, oh, but we already have something similar, the Localism Act. The whole tenor of the Localism Act is about actually supporting development. And what those in power, they're clever. What they've done is that they've realised that the people don't want public services to be dismantled, and they don't want a neoliberal world that's sort of deregulated, where private corporations can come in and do what they like in our communities. So they frame the law in terms of community rights. These aren't genuine community rights, and they talk about things like localism and a big society. And this is a robust lie. I was reading an article last night that talks about the Localism Act as austerity localism. And they talk about the robust lie. It's a repackaging of a neoliberal agenda. The Localism Act doesn't empower communities in the way that the Community Bill of Rights does. Fundamentally, it doesn't give communities the right to say no to corporate assaults. So if someone wants to come in and develop, yeah, they can't say no. So that's what it isn't. It also isn't the same thing as the Eradicating Ecocide campaign. So lots of people assume that I'm part of Polly Higgins's campaign, which I'm hugely supportive of, and it's that campaign to make ecocide the 5th crime against peace is brilliant, but it's working at the international level. So what I'm talking about is actually working at the local level. It's a grassroots strategy. It's not merely a legal strategy, it's a way of organising to get fundamental change by changing the rules of the game at the local level. So I'll say a little bit more about the Community Bill of Rights now. It would generally give power to communities to stop corporate assaults by entrenching the right to local community self-government. And by that I mean the people that are affected by decisions are able to make the decisions. This is what we don't have at the moment, like a real bar to sustainable, genuinely sustainable communities is the fact that those who are taking the decisions believe in limitless economic production. And secondly, the people that are taking the decisions aren't affected by the impacts of what happens. So when the government issues a permit for Quadrilla or whoever to frack, that affects real people that live around that area, and it affects nature. But the people making the decisions are completely dissociated from the real harms. And the purpose of environmental law, right, it's not about stopping, it's not about prohibiting harm. It's about regulating the destruction of our planet. And we all know who that benefits. It's about private profit. So, yes, the Community Bill of Rights is a local constitution that sets out the rights of the community in the first part, including fundamentally the right to people's self-government. It's premised on the idea that all political power is inherent in the people. Not in Parliament. They should be accountable to us. The idea of consent of the governed. Secondly, the rights of nature, because under current law, and this is true of most Western legal systems, nature is treated as property to be exploited endlessly. I believe other species have a right to exist and to flourish. And also fundamentally the right to determine the future of our neighbourhoods. Again, it should be us, the people in communities that we should be able to shape how our community develops. And the second part of the Community Bill of Rights, it talks about prohibitions on corporate legal privileges. And the main thing in that is that where a corporation or company proposes to come in and do something which is harmful to the community, fracking, etc., the people can revoke the corporate personhood. Corporate rights should never trump the rights of people, never trump the rights of people and planet, but routinely we see that happen. And I think politicians are quite blatant, have been for some time, in talking about endless economic growth, right, i.e. a business-friendly agenda, as if it was synonymous with the public interest, which it so clearly isn't. So I think the revocation of corporate personhood is a really important part of the Community Bill of Rights. And what I'm talking about here, the project is not really about trying to graft this model onto the existing legal system. It's about creating a new civil rights movement to elevate our rights over corporate rights. In the same way, in the past, the abolitionists didn't seek to regulate the slave trade. They wanted people to have the same status, not to be treated as property under the law. And the same with the suffragettes. They didn't want to be treated as property under the law. They were persons. So really, we're talking about a whole shift in the legal system, and it's a rights-based approach. So I see this idea as being incredibly important, both because it addresses the democratic deficit and would give people at the local level a chance to say no to unwanted corporate assaults. And also I really think it helps to address the ecological crisis. So some people say we don't have an ecology crisis, we have a democratic crisis, and this is because the people that are making the decisions which are destroying the planet we don't have any say in it. It's someone else. So if we take the power away from the plutocrats that are destroying the planet for profit and put it back in the hands of the people, the idea is that most people just want a decent life and a healthy and happy community. So yes, the Community Bill of Rights puts power back in the hands of people and elevates community rights and rights of nature above corporate rights. And yeah, I think it's an incredibly exciting idea. Community bills of rights have been implemented in over 100 towns in the US and a city, and the ideas are also they're sort of quite common actually in certain parts of South America. There's certainly a big rights of nature movement in South America, and particularly coming from countries like Bolivia and Ecuador, Venezuela. So it's not without precedent. This is something that can happen if there's a people's movement behind it. It's all about a grassroots form of organising to sort of drive change from the bottom upwards, because that's the only way that real change happens. Thank you.